Joined by Tim Taylor in New York. He's the president of Tiburon Subsea Services, a corporation dedicated to ocean research and exploration. Tim, thanks for joining us.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
So,
glad to be here. What
is the first priority for the captain and crew when you are in charge of a boat with some 400 people and a freak storm hits? What is your immediate responsibility at that point?
Well, depending on how much time they have, but your responsibility is always the safety of the passengers. I agree with your last person on here that said don't judge these guys too severely. If this happened as fast as it sounds like it happened, these guys were maybe just were in the right place at the right time to be thrown from the ship because they were on the top of the ship. So their responsibility is to the passengers, but if you only have a few seconds, there's not much you can do in a ship's overturned like that.
So Tim, in flying, or when we talk to pilots, they say in an emergency situation there is this rule: aviate, navigate, and communicate. Is there such a rule or something similar like that as a captain of a boat or a vessel?
That is not exactly for ocean-going vessels. Navigating is something you do all the time. You are always continuing navigating on a boat. But in this situation, it is a weather incident that happened so severely that I don't think any of that applies. I mean, if you only have a minute to deal with a ship being hit by a storm and turned over, it is a disaster, and it's unfortunate. But they probably did everything they could to warn people, but if it's only a few seconds, you know, it ticks by fast.
It's few seconds, but the captain and the engineers survived this. Does that mean they just got out of the boat or the wreckage? And I mean, I don't understand how they survived, and yet 400 people have not been accounted for.
I understand that, and a lot of people at face value will look at that and suspect that they saved themselves. But I would warn you that in historical purposes, in ships at sea during a war, submarines per se, or ships, the captains are always on the bridge, which is the top of the boat. If the ship is overturned or capsized or washes out from underneath them that fast, they just happen to be on the top of the boat, and that's the people that get off. Whether it was someone out there on the deck, you know, looking at the stars or the storm, it was just where they were is more than likely why they are off the boat. And if the boat did go to capsize, the first thing they want to do is to alert for help. If they didn't get to the radios in time and the boat capsized, instead of diving and trying to fruitlessly try to save people, which they never would have been able to do, their duty is to tell, you know, the world to come help, and that's probably what they did.
So, Tim, are there parts of the boat, a boat that large, that passengers can be where they have a better chance of survival?
The boats are designed to hold water out, so when they flip upside down, they hold air in. So there's going to be a bubble of air in what would be the bottom of the boat and the keel of the boat that stays there. So there are people in those areas. How long they can survive is going to be now elements, how cold they get, and how much air is there to breathe, how much oxygen is there to breathe in the air that they have. So that it's a race in time. I would imagine that they may be some plans that they would put some gas inside and pump air into the ship. It would do two things. It'll help it float, and it will also supply fresh air for any potential people that are alive in there to survive longer. So there are things they can do.
What about creating air pockets in the ship's hull? Is that something they can do?
Yeah, and that's what, by pumping air in there, that's what they would do. They would enlarge the air pockets, would gain buoyancy for the ship. It would help the people survive. But you got to be careful. People will think, why don't you just cut a hole in the bottom of the ship to look for people? And as soon as you do that, you let all the air out of the ship, and it now sinks. Okay, so you're cutting a hole into the hull is not the right thing to do in this particular situation, because it just expedites the ship to the bottom of the river.